Welcome aboard as we pay a tribute to Jimmy Buffett and his extraordinary boat collection, a fleet that tells the story of a legend who literally lived the lyrics he sang. There's a reason he built most margaritavilles on the coast. And here's something wild. The singer spent more money on boats than most rock stars spent on private jets, with his largest vessel stretching 124 feet and costing millions. Yet here's the twist that'll blow your mind. When he commissioned his dream sportfisher, he paid the builder to destroy the mold afterward, ensuring nobody else could ever own the same boat. Talk about taking changes in attitudes to a whole new level. This wasn't just vanity, it was a philosophy that boats, like songs, should be one-of-a-kind expressions of the soul sailing them. Passion overcomes sense on the start of this incredible maritime journey. Let me tell you about a young musician in 1976 who did something his accountant thought was absolutely insane. Picture this, a struggling artist with barely 2 albums under his belt takes every penny from his second album, a white sport coat and a pink crustacean, and instead of investing it wisely or saving for a rainy day, he blows it all on a 33-foot chi-oily ketch named Euphoria. His accountant nearly had a heart attack, but the future legend called it his insurance policy. Turns out that boat would become the floating recording studio for the songs that would make him millions. The Euphoria wasn't just any vessel. It was a 33-foot floating middle finger to conventional wisdom. This Luders-designed ketch, with its clipper bow and long bowsprit, looked like something straight out of a pirate movie, which was exactly the point. While other musicians were buying Ferraris, our hero was learning celestial navigation from his grandfather's teachings and getting his hands dirty with diesel maintenance. The boat represented freedom, adventure, and most importantly, a direct connection to his seafaring grandfather, who'd been a sailing ship captain from Newfoundland. But here's where it gets interesting, and if you're enjoying these behind-the-scenes stories about the empire built on salt and sand, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because we're just getting started with revelations that'll change how you hear every song from this maritime maestro. After that famous song about a frozen cocktail hit the charts in 1977 and money started, as the singer put it, piling up, he didn't buy a mansion or a recording studio. No, he bought Euphoria 2, a massive 48-foot chi-oily ketch that housed 3 staterooms below deck. This wasn't just an upgrade, it was a statement. The boat featured lavish accommodations that would make most landlubbers' apartments look cramped, with hand-carved teak throughout and enough space to host the kind of parties that would inspire songs for decades to come. The fascinating part about this larger vessel: his first voyage was an 800-mile passage from Florida to St. Martin, across a typically nasty Atlantic. Most celebrity boat owners would hire a delivery crew for something like that, but not our captain. He wanted to feel every wave, understand every groan of the rigging, because for him, the journey was the destination. This boat became his primary residence for stretches of time, sailing through the British Virgin Islands and writing melodies that would become the soundtrack for every beach bar from Key West to Kokomo. What most people don't realize is that during his time in Tortola and the surrounding islands, he would often anchor in remote bays like those around Anegada, refusing to come ashore for days. Local charter captains still tell stories about seeing that distinctive ketch anchored in impossibly tight spots where no 48-footer should fit, testament to his evolving seamanship and his belief that the best anchorages were the ones nobody else could reach. Now here's where things get really juicy, and I mean controversial enough to make yacht club members clutch their pearls. In 2003, the Troubadour commissioned a 42-foot Rybovich Spencer Express walkaround that he christened Last Mango 2. But here's the kicker: after the boat was completed, He paid extra to have Rybovich completely destroy the mold. And that's right, he essentially bought the boat twice, once to own it, and once to make sure nobody else ever could. This move ruffled feathers in the sport fishing community. Some called it wasteful, others called it genius. The boat featured twin 670 horsepower Cummins QSM11 diesel engines, could hit 35 knots at top speed, and cruise comfortably at 24 knots. It had full electronics visible from every cockpit position, custom RUP outringers, and a tuna tower that gave 360-degree visibility. But the real magic was in the details. A walk-around design specifically requested so he could fight a fish from any angle, and custom storage for 2 paddle boards. Because even when chasing tuna, morning paddles were non-negotiable. The captain put nearly 5,000 hours on those engines, making countless trips through the Florida Keys, Bahamas, and up to the Hudson Canyon. The boat's original logbook, which occasionally surfaces at charity auctions, reads like a who's who of fishing legends and music royalty. One entry from a trip to Cat Cay in 2019 shows his sense of humor intact decades into his career. The boat was eventually sold to a personal friend and renamed Blue Eyes 2. It's currently listed for $999,999, if you've got that burning a hole in your pocket. After conquering the sport fishing world, maritime ambitions grew larger, literally. Enter the Continental Drifter series, because one wasn't enough. First came a Nordhaven 62 in 1998, purchased directly from Dan Streech at Pan Asian Enterprises, then a 90-foot Chiayi Explorer designed by Tom Fexus, and finally the crown jewel, Continental Drifter III, a 124-foot yacht built by Delta Marine in 2003. The 90-foot Chiayi, later renamed W, was the only Expedition 90 model ever built, another one-of-a-kind vessel in the collection. This wasn't just a boat, it was a floating command center with a range of over 4,000 nautical miles. The vessel featured something extraordinary, a crow's nest where songs were reportedly written while watching sunsets across the Pacific. With an open foredeck for storing toys and tenders, plus a hydraulic crane for launching them, it served as the Swiss Army knife of yachts. The Continental Drifter III took luxury to another level. At 124 feet with 5 staterooms, it could accommodate 10 guests in absolute comfort, with a crew of 6 including a first-class chef. The yacht was available for charter at $65,000 per week, and here's a detail that shows the owner's playful spirit. He suggested charterers could motor west through the Panama Canal, play in the Pacific, then fly his Cessna Caravan float plane back to the Atlantic side, swimming in both oceans on the same day. Now, if you thought destroying a mold was extreme, wait until you hear about the Freeman catamaran projects. This is where you really need to pay attention, because what I'm about to tell you represents years of secret development and collaborative boat building. Ready for this? Good, because this story showcases true innovation. And it's exactly why you should be subscribed to this channel with notifications on. The partnership began with a 33-foot Freeman that performed so well, it inspired something unprecedented. Working with Captain Vinny LaSausa, a 42-foot Freeman hull was commissioned without a console. Like ordering a Ferrari chassis without the body, Freeman Boatworks initially thought LaSausa was a competitor trying to steal trade secrets. It took confirmation that the actual island escapist himself wanted to build this boat before they took him seriously. The collaboration involved Freeman Boatworks, Merritt Boatworks, and Pipe Welders Marine, each contributing their expertise. Sally Freeman recalls the singer showing up at her house to discuss the build, treating it with the same intensity most artists reserve for recording albums. Roy Merritt of Merritt's wasn't initially keen on creating a custom pilot house for a hull that had never had one, but got arm-twisted into it by infectious enthusiasm and a vision of advancing boat-building craftsmanship. The final product featured that revolutionary pilot house, requiring multiple mock-ups and iterations. Pipe Welders Marine added a custom stainless steel tuna tower that transformed the boat into what one observer called a fishing weapon disguised as art. The entire project pushed boundaries of what was possible with catamaran design, creating a vessel that could fish hard all day and party harder all night. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn that shocked even close friends. In 2018, at an age when most successful musicians are buying bigger motor yachts, the captain went backward, or forward, depending on your perspective, to sailing. He commissioned a 50-foot, 15.24-meter Pacific Seacraft called Drifter, a custom motor sailor built in North Carolina. Drifter represented something profound in his evolution as a mariner. Built with lightweight infused epoxy and carbon fiber composite materials, featuring a carbon mast and boom, this wasn't your grandfather's sailboat. The entire rig was state-of-the-art, with sails controlled entirely from the cockpit. The irony, he'd previously said most motor sailors are terrible sailboats, yet wanted one anyway because comfort mattered as much as performance. The boat was designed by Ted Fontaine as a surfari concept, with built-in surfboard storage. Yes, at 70-plus years old, surfing was still on the agenda. The build took twice as long and cost twice as much as estimated, a situation met with characteristic good humor. The vessel featured a seafoam green hull, the same color as Nathaniel Herreshoff's famous Illyrion, honoring maritime tradition while embracing modern technology, with nearly a 5-meter beam at its widest point aft. Drifter offered living space comparable to much larger yachts. It could be sailed single-handed, but was designed for two-person operation, perfect for cruising with his wife Jane of over 40 years. The outdoor galley and salon opening directly to the cockpit meant entertainment flowed seamlessly, just like verses flow into choruses. Beyond these headline vessels lay an entire supporting fleet that would make most marinas look like parking lots. There was Savannah Jane, a 26-foot Illyrion sloop designed by Nathaniel Herreshoff, acquired in 1979. A Hinckley DS-42 named Chill provided New England summer comfort. A Morris 36 underwent custom cosmetic redesign, including a faux finish paint job on its carbon fiber mast to mimic spruce. A Tofano 9.5 called Groovy served as the perfect day sailor. For fishing the flats, multiple Hell's Bay skiffs were strategically positioned. Various Albury Brothers center consoles handled island-hopping duties. Each vessel served a specific purpose in the nautical orchestra. The smaller boats enabled what he called guerrilla sailing, spontaneous escapes when inspiration struck. Boats were kept in multiple locations: the Bahamas, Key West, Sag Harbor, St. Bart's, ensuring open water was never more than minutes away. One particularly telling detail, a donated vessel called Miss Peetsy B, originally a 1973 Navy boat built by Uniflight, was given to his alma mater, University of Southern Mississippi. The 33-footer now ferries school children through South Mississippi marshes, continuing the maritime education tradition. This gesture revealed something deeper. Boats weren't just toys, but tools for passing on seafaring knowledge to future generations. Let's address the elephant in the marina: the staggering costs and environmental considerations of maintaining such a fleet. Conservative estimates suggest lifetime boat expenditures in the tens of millions, not including operational costs, crew salaries, maintenance, and dockage fees that would make mortgage payments look like pocket change. The carbon footprint of operating multiple yachts raised eyebrows among environmentalists. How could someone singing about natural beauty and island life justify the diesel consumption? The response was typically pragmatic: increased catch and release fishing practices, significant donations to maritime conservation efforts, and later in life, the shift toward more efficient sailing vessels like Drifter. Whether this balanced the scales is debatable, but the effort was noted. Crew management presented its own challenges. Former crew members describe exacting standards. Everything from stainless steel polish to outrigger attention had to be perfect. The turnover rate was notable, though those who adapted to the high standards were reportedly well compensated and got to live experiences money couldn't typically buy. One former captain described it as exhausting but exhilarating. You were maintaining vessels for someone who actually understood and appreciated every detail. There were also the business ventures tied to the boats. Last Mango Boatworks became a charitable enterprise, with proceeds supporting Singing for Change charity and Freedom Fighter Outdoors for injured military service members. The boats weren't just personal indulgences, but platforms for philanthropy, turning maritime passion into community support. The impact extended far beyond personal enjoyment. Charter companies in the Caribbean reported increased bookings from fans wanting to follow in their heroes' wake. Boat manufacturers saw upticks in sales of models he'd owned. The Buffett effect was real. He made boat ownership seem not just attainable, but essential to living fully. More significantly, he democratized yachting culture. Through his music and lifestyle, exclusive yacht clubs became beach bars in the collective imagination. You didn't need a trust fund to join, just a sunset, a cold drink, and dreams of sailing. He transformed maritime culture from stuffy regattas to floating concerts. From formal yacht club dinners to cheeseburgers in paradise, the boats became characters in a larger narrative about choosing experience over security, adventure over comfort, salt over gold. Every vessel represented a chapter in a life story that refused conventional plotting. When he passed in September 2023, he wasn't surrounded by platinum records, but was reportedly planning his next sailing adventure, because for him, the horizon always held more promise than the harbor. So there you have it, folks. The complete, unvarnished story of an extraordinary boat collection that defined a life. From the humble Euphoria that started it all, to the sophisticated drifter that marked his final chapter, each vessel tells a story of a man who refused to separate his dreams from his reality. He invested more in boats than most musicians invest in their entire careers, destroyed molds to maintain exclusivity, and treated his vessels with reverence usually reserved for sacred artifacts. Was it excessive? Absolutely. Was it worth it? Just listen to any song from this maritime poet and try to imagine it written in a landlocked recording studio. You can't, because the salt, sun, diesel fumes, and fish blood were as essential to his creative process as guitar strings and microphones. The boats weren't just transportation, they were transformation, turning a Mobile, Alabama native into the patron saint of island time. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the nautical world of a true original, and let's be honest, if you made it this far, you definitely did, then smash that subscribe button like you're setting the hook on a trophy marlin. Ring that notification bell louder than a ship's horn at sunset. Drop a comment below telling us which boat from this incredible collection you'd choose if money was no object. Because in this maritime philosophy, money should never be an object when it comes to boats. Just an inconvenient detail between you and your next adventure. Until next time, keep your bow pointed toward the horizon and your cooler full of something cold. Fair winds and following seas, my friends.